Chapter 7. Eavesdrop. Miko could usually find a way to not be upset about something bothering her. She'd take a nap or look at the bright side. When most things plagued her, she either dealt with or realized she had no control and left it be. Losing her best friend, however, was not something that could be patched up with a band-aid of positivity. She needed to get out of the house and go talk to someone who could understand how she felt. She thought about speaking to Cerrone. Somewhere deep down he had to have cared about Janelle still. It wasn't that long ago that they dated. But that didn't feel quite right to Miko. She needed to suck it up and talk to Charity. She wasn't sure if she could get past how little she must have cared since she let loose in the cafeteria during school, but she needed to try something. A part of her still hated Charity for taking the attention off of Janelle in any way. I'll be back later, Mom. See you in a bit, Dad. Miko shouted up the stairs. Have fun, sweetie. Her mom shouted back. Her parents were pretty lenient with her leaving and coming back because she never pushed curfew or got into any major trouble. Miko walked out to her blue Audi and chucked her purse into the passenger's seat. She started to get in, but she saw her next-door neighbor. Every time she laid eyes on her, she wanted to give her a bear hug and admit that she wasn't sure if calling the cops would help or not. She heard of so many times where the woman would go back to the man and would be hurt worse after the cops were involved. Would he come after Miko next if she tried to help? Hey, Bronte, how are you? Bronte stood at 5'9" with straightened dark hair, the gorgeous brown skin to match, and always dressed like she was about to walk a runway. I haven't seen you in a while. You look nice. Thanks, sweetie. Bronte got into her sleek black Maserati and rolled down the window. I am off to run a few errands before it gets too late. We'll catch up soon, okay? Miko beamed. She admired how strong Bronte was. She kept it all together so well, and Miko hoped she'd get brave soon so that Bronte wouldn't have to be for much longer. She'd find a way to let her know she needed the help and do something about it. She refused to lose Janelle and Bronte. When she pulled up to Charity's house, Miko sat in her car for a moment just to give the intrusive memories time to flow in and back out of her mind. There were countless slumber parties, fights, make-ups and karaoke nights spent at Charity's house. Miko approached the house with ease as she heard Charity and her mom, Sherry, yelling, "Chill. If you were going to be the type of girl to act like a hot tamale, you could at least keep it classy. Don't let everybody know." Sherry shouted. "I am sorry for what I did. But slut-shaming me? Real progressive of you, Mom. Get over yourself, Char. Your friend is missing, and you are constantly making it about you. Yes, you are dealing with a lot, but so is her mother. So are her father and brother. You haven't even bothered to so much as tweet them." Miko felt guilty for listening in. It obviously wasn't a good time, and she had begun to turn around and leave. She heard Sherry speaking but couldn't understand what she was saying as she wasn't by the door anymore. One thing came through clearly though. "Number, Mom. I did it. I didn't mean to, but I did." There was silence inside the house from what Miko could hear. That didn't mean much because she felt that someone took a mallet and swung it into her chest. Before she registered what was happening, she was banging on the front door. Sherry opened the door to invite Miko in. "What did you do, Char?" Miko felt as heartbroken as Sherry looked. Charity straightened her posture and lifted her head. She knew she was about to face down a mountain of questions and accusations. She also knew she deserved it. Chapter 8. Old Friends. As they all sat down in the main living room that had everything including the carpet imported from Italy, there was a question that lingered. Did Charity have anything to do with Janelle's disappearance? Sherry decided to break the tension. "Miko, dear, we have really missed having you over. How have you been?" She genuinely meant it. She was always very fond of Miko. "I've been okay, Mrs. Mills. You know how things go. It just gets crazy with school and all." Miko bit her lip and begun fumbling around with the hem of her skirt. "Okay, here it is." Charity worked up the courage to say what she needed them to believe while there was an ease in the tension she'd created. I behaved inappropriately. I know that. I was just feeling overwhelmed by everything happening and needed to just let loose and lighten the mood at school. Janelle is all anyone is thinking about. She quickly realized how selfish she sounded and saw the looks from her mom and Miko that said they were ready to pounce on her like lions on an antelope. I wanted everyone to just have a moment to not feel down. Depression won't help us figure out what happened to her, which could be anything. What you did was something that will follow you for life. How many kids snapped pictures that will stay on the internet forever? Sherry shook with anger as she thought of her daughter being judged for that one moment. I know, Mom. Charity huffed. Then did you not care? You should give a shit about how this will come back to bite your ass later. You better hope no college or job recruiter thinks to Google you. Sherry stood up. She didn't want to have this conversation in front of Miko, even though Miko had always been like a second daughter to her. It's not how she liked to handle things. You two catch up. We will continue this later. She scrunched her forehead as she spoke to Charity. She was furious and needed to calm down. Sherry hugged Miko tightly for all the time she didn't get to watch her grow up. She then moved to hug Charity only so that she could whisper, "We will talk about what it was you really tried to confess to later on too. I'm sorry about all of that. I know the two of you are still close and I didn't mean any disrespect to her." Charity tucked her hair behind her ear and looked down as she waited for Miko's response. It's cool. I spent the little bit of time I was at school talking to counselors and police, so I only heard about it afterward. Can't believe you got suspended though. Yeah, Tony was furious. She rolled her eyes thinking of how much he'd yelled at her. Who? Miko asked, cocking her head to the side like a curious puppy. Charity realized she stopped breathing after she let the wrong thing slip out of her mouth. The police stopped by to talk to me here. What did they say to you? Typical stuff, I guess. What she was like and if she mentioned running away was the gist of it. What did they say to you? They asked if she seemed different and if I'd heard of anything that she may have been planning as far as leaving with a secret boyfriend or some crap. They wanted to know if she had a boyfriend. I didn't know of anyone past Cerrone, so I just said no. Charity felt guilty for not knowing for sure. She distanced herself from her old friends for new ones and now she felt alone with no one, and it was no one's fault but her own. Without people around to dote on her at school, Charity felt intimidated by Miko. She'd come into her own and exuded so much confidence. You've changed so much. You seem older. I do? Miko had been trying to be a mature new version of herself for this school year and was glad to see it was showing. She also didn't have to try because something about being around Charity made her feel good again, like old times. You're the popular one. Trust me, no one has changed more than you. Miko cringed at how bitchy that sounded, but it was true, so she wasn't going to take it back. So, you think I used to be lame? Charity laughed. Grounded. Miko said frankly. Chapter 9. Miko. Miko couldn't sleep that night. She couldn't believe she heard Janelle's voice again. That cryptic voicemail made Miko feel as if she was about to become the police's #1 suspect. She just kept hearing Janelle's voice saying, Miko, I'm so sorry. I promise I won't do it again. Please let me come home. There it was. Every reason to doubt anything Miko had ever said and the person anyone thought she was. Her best friend called just to incriminate her. What a bitch. Miko knew she didn't physically harm her. She also figured that the full truth would make her look awful after the voicemail. She chased her into the street, and she got away. All over a boy. Stupid Joey, Miko thought. She didn't even know why Janelle was upset about it. They were best friends. Miko always had dibs on him. None of it mattered now. The police are doing an in-depth investigation and have her phone because of it. She can only imagine the things she should have deleted on the way to the station. She begins to shake, partially from how cold it is in her room, but mostly because she felt horrible. She was glad Janelle was okay, but now that meant people may come after her and act as if the townspeople are after Frankenstein. She chose to sit on her back porch since to help clear her head of all that was going on. The cold air was still. Miko sat on her bench with her head against the panels along the house, and the focused on breathing deeply and slowly. Her search for peace ended as she heard the horrid sounds of her neighbors arguing. The fact that yet another incident went by as she didn't do a thing to help the poor woman next year was enough to make her begin bawling at how useless she was to the people around her. She wanted to, but her body wouldn't let her. She had it in her, but the tears and the agony refused to be released. She knew she deserved to feel every bit of it. She heard the sound of a truck starting up and driving away. A while later, Miko listened to a familiar voice call out to her in the darkness. "Miko, can I join you, sweetheart?" She looked up and noticed the small voice coming from her neighbor's back door. "Yeah, come on over," Miko said lowly. She walked over slowly, trying to hide a limp, and holding a bottle of wine. "Hey, Bronte. Sit anywhere you want." "Thanks, sweetheart. What has you out here right now?" Bronte asked her suspiciously, hoping she didn't hear what just take place. "You know that girl in the news? Janelle, the one that's missing. She was my best friend. I just can't sleep now." Bronte was holding an arm across her stomach but tried to use her free hand to pay Miko on the shoulder. "She will be just fine. Before you know it, y'all will be back to shopping and talking about boys." Miko felt really guilty now. This was all over a boy, not that she understood why. And Bronte was just abused and is still able to comfort her. Miko felt like the most pathetic person alive. "You can take a sip." "I won't tell," Bronte said as she held out her bottle of wine. "You could use it as much as anyone else right now." "Thanks." Miko took it and tried her best not to gulp it too greedily. "You know, Bronte, if you ever need to come over to hang or just..." Miko wasn't sure how to word it or what exactly she was trying to put into words. "Need some help? I got your back. Whatever. Whenever." Bronte found it hard to look at Miko. She knew what the quiet girl from next door was getting at. She felt exposed. But she also felt a little bit safer. "Yeah, same to you, sweetheart." She finished off her wine, and they pair sat in silence for a while, as both their minds wandered far and wide as to what would become of them. "When I was your age, I thought I'd become a robotics engineer." Bronte almost smiled. "Was college too expensive or something? Why didn't you? Once I was out of high school, traveling seemed more exciting. I had this dream of living in Italy." She let out the most beautiful and genuine laughter. "I thought I'd find my soulmate. I told myself all I needed to do was become